I'm Pavel. I'm from a company called Point9 Capital. We are a Berlin-based early-stage VC. So a few words about us. We're an early-stage VC based in Berlin. We invest up to €1 million in early-stage startups in the first step. We love software and we love marketplaces. About myself, I'm Pavel. I'm born and raised in Poland. I moved to Germany when I was 17 years old. I worked in finance, but since 2008 I'm in Berlin and working in the startup industry. We are quite active in Poland. We have 6 active investments right now in Poland. Here you can see some names you might recognize. Yeah, that's a short introduction. So before I came here, I did a little bit of crowdsourcing on Facebook, like what people would like me to talk about. And I got some feedback, so the topics for today are our investment criteria. Some folks were interested in that, so to understand what we are investing in. Another topic is about going international, how to expand from one country and do business in other countries. And the third topic will be Polish versus German Berlin startup community. So how I see the differences between what we see in Poland versus what we see in other countries. If you have questions in the meantime, please don't hesitate to ask, because these are 3 topics that are kind of separate, so it might be difficult to accumulate all the questions in the end. So if something comes to your mind, just raise your hand. So our investment criteria. We call ourselves Point9 Capital for a reason. We call the stage that we invest the Point9 stage. So we like investing in companies that already have something, but it doesn't have to be done perfect. So we see ourselves, like in financial terms, somewhere between seed and Series A. So we will typically not invest in an idea and that's it. But it doesn't have to be like perfectly working company with a lot of revenues. Prototypes and first users, first usage, that's what we're looking for. In terms of geography, we are generally interested in anything happening in Europe. And outside of Europe, we're also involved in English-speaking countries. So we have investments in Canada, a few in the US, New Zealand. So everywhere we can read and understand the product, play around with it, we are interested to get involved. But 75% of our activity is in Europe. We are investing almost exclusively in companies that target the global, international, multi-local market. So it's very rare that we get involved in a project that focuses only on one specific country. In terms of sectors, as mentioned, we love software. So most of our activity is in the software as a service space. In Poland, we've got 2 companies in this space. It's Infact and Position.me. This is exactly the space we like. We have over 20 companies, over 20 investments we made in that space. I think we've accumulated quite a lot of expertise. We are very bullish about this trend. It's a massive trend. It's a great business model if done right. And a lot of people will have a lot of fun and will make a lot of money with software, online software in the coming years. We also love stuff that is, we call it marketplaces, but we refer by this to anything that has network effects, which means the bigger it becomes, the stronger it becomes. It's like the classical example of this is a social network like Facebook or eBay. It's very hard to create a direct competitor to something like this because they are good because they're big and everyone else is on there. So we appreciate the challenges in building such businesses. It's sometimes a very hard, long and expensive journey, but once built, these businesses are very difficult to attack, and in the long term, we believe this is one of the coolest business models you can find on the internet. And in Poland, some examples of this that we have done is, for example, Niania.pl. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's the largest Polish nannies database. It's number 1 and there's no number 2, and it's been like this for a couple of years, and I think it's not going to change. It's the only company that charges for its services, and it's still the biggest. So there are many competitors who are trying to do it for free or differently, but just by the sheer size, it's impossible to attack their position. And the company was acquired by Edipresse. Edipresse, they don't know much about the internet, and still it's been 3 years, and it's still number 1. It's still growing, and yeah. Pardon? we are interested in anything that is fast growing, essentially. Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious. And also we make a lot of exceptions. So if something is not in the area of our expertise, but we have a special relationship with the founders, or we really like the founders, then we always happy to consider stuff that is a little bit outside of what we typically focus on. So much to our investment criteria. Now about going international. I will make it quick. I think there is two ways to build an international company. Either you have a flat, kind of global, typically English language, international product from the start. An example would be Position.me, especially in the software space. There's many products like this. So you launch it and you're international. And the second way to do this is to do the multi-local approach. So you do something that focuses on one country, and that is very country specific, and then you do the same thing in a different country. And now I will go in depth on both of those. So an international product. Here are some examples from our portfolio, like typical online software products that people from all around the world use immediately. So it's very easy to start being international in this way. You don't have to open offices. Initially, you can do it out of Russia, Poland, US. But the downside of this is that these products, these markets tend to be super competitive, because if you can cover the whole world out of anywhere, then probably somewhere in the world, somewhere else came up with the idea as well. So every one of these companies that are from our portfolio, they're very international, but they have lots of competitors from day one, which has implications on marketing. Marketing is very expensive, and you compare yourself with the best in the world day one. So there is a little bit less margin for error. But even though they look so international, if you want to make serious money with such companies, you frequently really have to embark on more localized sales efforts, especially if you want to sell to big companies. Even like Facebook, global product, they have local sales offices all around the world, because if they want to make money with big brands, they have to have representatives that go to them and meet them. So on the surface it looks like it's global, but in the end, especially the sales aspect of things, is very local. And here is the multi-local kind of approach. So here are some examples from our portfolio. Like Delivery Hero is a company that owns, for example, I think it's called Pizza Portal in Poland. They own Lieferheld in Germany, and a couple of other local food delivery players. So every one of their kind of local companies is very local. They have people on the ground, they have relationships with local restaurants, they do local marketing and everything. And it's challenging. It's logistically challenging to have this international expansion being done one country by another, because you have to hire local people, different culture, many different things. But you will frequently have local competition in those markets, but you will very rarely have global competition. So there are, like in food delivery, every country has like a couple of those players, but there are just 3 players globally that really do it on international scale and do this multi-country approach. And if you grow like this, and if you're active in a couple of countries, over time it becomes fairly easy to compete with those local players, because they're smaller, you have much more scale, the technology is much more powerful because it typically is centralized. And the competition of other big players is very limited in those situations. And this kind of multi-local approach becomes especially challenging when we're talking about e-commerce. So if you sell goods in one country, then you want to do it in one more, and one more. It's a logistical nightmare. It is very capital intensive, but it's possible, and if you do it right, it can be great business that's very defensible. An example of this would be Westwing from our portfolio. They're also active in Poland. It's an upscale kind of home and living shopping platform. They're active in 10 countries. They have like 1,000 employees, lots of warehouses. It's a crazy thing. They raised over 100 million euros in like 2 years. It's very, very difficult what they're doing, but in most of the countries they're active, they don't have a single competitor. So much so internationalization. And now I have 3 thoughts on the Polish startup ecosystem, how I see it. And I want to share them with you. They will be a bit controversial, I think. So, first, talent. Engineers and managers. I think in Poland, the common knowledge is we're great in technology, we understand technology, we're talented in mathematics, and I think that's true. The more east you go, the more intuitive understanding people have for mathematics, the more west you go, the better they talk, but the worse they can't. But I think we underestimate in Poland heavily the commercial side of businesses. And I think it's something that I see a lot, that people think, technology, product, that's what they focus on, and like HR, sales, marketing, this is soft things, someone else can do it. I think that's a big mistake, and I think in Poland startups should put more attention to that. I think if you go to Berlin, the situation is exactly the opposite. There are like business guys doing things and have no idea about technology. And in the US it's even worse. People sell you something, you think like they're amazing, when you look under the hood and nothing works. And in Poland it's more like, or Eastern Europe in general, I think, it's like, it works a little bit, it's okay, and then you look and it's fantastic. So I think this commercial side is important, because if we neglect it, we end up with something like this, right? We send rocket to space, but our road's stuck. I think it's like Russia was like this. And the thing is, which one is harder and which one is more important, right? Actually, like construction and roads, it's the simpler thing, but we see many countries where it doesn't work because they just overestimate this super high-end, super complicated, and forget to focus on those small little things. And so that's something that strikes me again and again. Second point that I think about Poland, that Poland is very decentralized, which typically is a good thing, but in tech it's not a good thing. So does any one of you know which is the best city for tech in Poland? It's like Poznań, Wrocław, Warszawa, Kraków, Szczecin, Gdańsk? You don't know. So
I think
Poznań, of course.
Yeah, Poznań. Krakow, you think Krakow? Yeah. So I think that's a big problem for many reasons, right? Because hubs are very important in tech, because there is something called cluster effect, right? Like Silicon Valley, Tel Aviv, they're all well known for a reason, because all skills, all financing, people with experience, big companies in the space, they're all on one spot, which has a lot of positive side effects. And also, there typically are places that are attractive for young people to live in. In Poland we don't know which this place is, but what in Poland is being done frequently, we have technology parks in the middle of some forests. I don't know why, but this is a real technology park close to Kisień, next to Zielona Góra. They came up with an idea to have a high-tech center for the University of Zielona Góra in there. I think this investment will fail, most likely. It's not only like a Polish phenomenon. I think in Germany they were trying to do the same things. So Frankfurt Oder, at the Polish-German border, they have like a massive technology park for sun energy something. Yeah? And they put lots of millions into it, and it's an empty area with almost free offices, because no one wants to go there. It's free office space in the middle of nowhere. Hey, we're like in tech, everyone is young, people want to live in a kind of interesting place and do interesting things. So I think the way the government encourages technology is actually wrong. It brings very little effect. And point number 3 is, I think that the Polish startup scene is very Polish. And I mean, it's good that we have events like this. It's super encouraging, but if you compare it to Berlin, it's like Berlin is part of the international tech community. There's like international people, international investors. It's just part of the tech world. I think Poland is not there yet. The Polish events, Polish startups, Polish investors, it's all like Polish thing. It's changing, and I think it's good that it's changing, but I think it's not changing fast enough. And this internationality is not cool by itself. I think it's very important, because if you have an international investor or international employee from like other companies, they will bring things to your company that you would normally have to kind of reinvent the wheel yourself, and we don't have to do that. I think there are much more developed ecosystems around the world that have faced problems that we're solving for the first time. So I think it's very important to get engaged with the international community, and like things like you're doing in San Francisco. I mean, you meet people where you learn things that if you come back here, it will benefit you greatly, I think, right? And so what can we do to make it happen? There is a big governmental program, KFK, which I think they have it totally backwards. They only allow the people to invest in Poland. It has to be a Polish company. They promote the isolation from other markets, I think. I think the best way to encourage internationalization of an ecosystem is international investment, and it starts happening. People like us or like Giza Ventures, Protos, Innovationists. I think they have this international approach. They try to push it, but it's a small part of the investment scene. And initiatives like this, I think, are very, very good and probably much more helpful than many of the millions spent by some organizations run by Polish government.